Good afternoon. My name is Rachel Ma, and I'm a consultant at EY Studio Plus. I'm here with you today bringing over 10 years of experience leading and delivering in high-pressure environments and turning chaos into repeatable, high-impact results. I'm also a mind reader, and to answer the question you might be pondering right now, I'm actually 23, and no, I did not start my career in consulting from the age of 13, which means my 10 years of experience did not come from a traditional workplace. They came from my all-time favorite collaborative game, Overcooked. In a nutshell, Overcooked is a 2 to 4 player game where you receive orders, you make them, and you submit them. But it is deceptively simple. Each round has a timer, and as that gets close to 0, friendships get tested. Kitchens are designed to break the happy path with a million moving pieces, and altogether, success in this game depends way less on skill and way more on systems, roles, and coordination. Now don't worry, you're not at the wrong event. You're probably thinking, Rachel, this is a CX Summit, why are we talking about Overcooked? Well, from playing Overcooked in my formative years, I have uncovered so many parallels between the game and my work as a consultant in CX that were just too easy to pass up on to not bring into a conversation like this one. Let's start with the name of the game. If you leave a pot or pan cooking for too long, it gets, you guessed it, overcooked. So once that fire catches, everyone on your team needs to drop whatever they're doing, find the fire extinguisher, put out the fire, which has now spread across your stations, and then can you take the pot, dump it in the trash, and only then can you start cooking from scratch. So it's a very disruptive process, but this kitchen represents all of our ways of working. In our world, if our proverbial kitchen is always on fire, or if our operations are constantly reacting to things, then we don't have any capacity for improvement or innovation. We're just in survival mode. But we can prevent this. And today, in the context of EY's partnership with Mackenzie Investments, we're here to talk about how CX is easy to design, but it's hard to deliver, and what we can do about that. This session is about what happens after the recipe is written. Now, I know we're all experts here, but I think there's some worthwhile stuff to level set on, and we'll do it very quickly. At Studio Plus, we define CX as designing at the intersection of business goals, user needs, and market context. And this goes hand in hand with designing outside in, which you do by designing with your customer and not just for them. Now for this means starting with a customer order and not from your pantry. Now CX is an excellent approach to solving a lot of our business problems, but it doesn't always work in practice, because when you actually get into an organization, how does the saying go? You learn more from one day in the kitchen than a year at the recipe drawing board? Something like that, right? The reason that CX doesn't always work in practice is because we have legacy operating models where people have built their careers in that way of working. We have funding models that are not conducive to cross-functional projects. And then we might have a customer who uses 5 different tools to interact with 10 different teams. And in short, no one is set up for the happy path. And neither were we when we worked with Mackenzie Investments. Today I'm going to tell you one story that unfolded across multiple levels of CX design and delivery, and then you're going to hear from the chefs themselves, our leaders from EY and our client Mackenzie, on what worked well, what didn't, and what we do differently next time. Let's jump right in, and I'll set the stage. Like many financial services organizations, Mackenzie was already investing heavily in customer experience. In fact, we had just helped them define what the future state should look like and what great was supposed to look like. But right as that vision was taking shape, the context suddenly changed. New regulatory deadlines were introduced all of a sudden, and advisor expectations were rising more quickly than ever. On top of all of this, behind the scenes, Mackenzie was facing an abundance of happy path obstacles, things like a legacy technology stack, or vendor dependencies, and teams that had each grown up with very different ways of working. And for Mackenzie, their portal isn't just another touch point in their client experience or journey, it's the front door to their business. So this was really imperative for the business to operate as a program. And that's when EY joined in. We came not to replace Mackenzie's teams, but to help them cross what I'd call the delivery inflection point. And let's talk about that. At a glance, the EY Studio Plus team worked with Mackenzie across 6 phases that span both CX design and delivery. And looking at the first 3 phases, CX design, or the menu, if you will, this is when CX is the most comfortable. This is when you have alignment and momentum, and you're talking about discovery, vision, principles. But the turning point is when you move from phase 3 to phase 4. And this is when you move from journeys to doing something about it. Below this is usually where CX usually breaks down. At Mackenzie, when they started the portal modernization project, they had to do so without role clarity, which means they had to define governance and ways of working as they were delivering at the same time, and that made things really messy. But from this, we've learned a few lessons. Today, I'm going to teach you how to get great at Overcooked, and at the same time, you're going to get great at navigating the gap between great CX design and the reality of delivery. From now on, let's think about this as one round of Overcooked, where we have to set up before we start the round, we execute the round, and then finally we need to meet a win condition at the end to pass the round. Kicking it off with round setup, before the timer starts, we need to design the flow. In Overcooked, the conditions that we play in are not at all conducive to success. Each one has a uniquely frustrating combination of turns, moving walkways, murderous cars, and literal holes in the ground. So as players, you and I can't redesign the game, but we can plan our approach. The same thing goes for our organizations in our world. And the way that we do this in the game is when you start a new round, you'll stare at it for 10 seconds, and then you'll hit restart, and that's when you discuss your strategy with your team of who does what, which areas should be avoided, and who hands off to who and how. If you don't do this, I guarantee you will waste your first attempt figuring it out as you mess up, and you'll most likely fail the round. Now, in our organizations, we don't ever have one thing to do. We have a ton of projects that are pulling our capacity every which way, and if we design an experience that doesn't plan for these interruptions or constraints, or if the experience that we design only works when nothing goes wrong, then it doesn't actually work. It's also important to recognize that in our world, we don't always get a second attempt. And that's why we need to design the flow before the timer starts in our CX delivery programs. And what this looks like is treating your work and delivery with as much care and attention as you do in designing the work for your customers. This means thinking about not just what goes on in your dining room, but also behind your galley doors. Two examples of how this came to life at Mackenzie are first, when we needed to provide updates to senior leaders, but realized that scheduling time with them would probably take us into the next decade, we got creative and we used 15-minute podcast-style updates instead. These updates achieve the same outcome of visibility, just from knowing that in an executive's journey, they value being kept in the loop, but also doing things on their own time. This allowed us to move really quickly without losing momentum or alignment. The second example comes from our release workflow playbook, and this was a centralized knowledge repository of everything we had done for the client and portals modernization program. In this playbook, it was a huge speed boost when we grew the product team at Mackenzie and I onboarded each new hire. For our new team members, instead of spending weeks piecing together things from documents and meetings, they could go directly to roles and responsibilities by key activity and figure out what they need to do, who they're handing off to, and what's coming up. In a program this large with this many SMEs involved and so many teams working at the same time cross-functionally, this was really important to reduce ramp-up time, but more importantly, to give our team members more confidence quickly. Now that we've set up the round, we can talk about executing. And in execution, your round can still collapse if you don't staff the supporting systems. In Overcooked, it's really easy to think about your big roles, for example, ingredient chopper or steak cooker. But you will find yourself in a really tight squeeze if you don't allocate capacity to the dishwasher or the ingredient inventory manager. And the mistake that we make as players is thinking that these roles will just happen in the gaps, when in reality, we need to plan for them. And organizations do the same thing with SMEs. We expect people who hold critical knowledge to contribute around their jobs instead of designing spaces for them to contribute meaningfully. And that's precisely our second lesson today, to give SME input the same weight as executive alignment. This means, just like you wouldn't forget to update your senior leaders, we shouldn't forget to intentionally create time and space for our SMEs to give input. At Mackenzie, what this looked like was when we approached gathering requirements for the portal, we could have done so in a traditional way. And what that looks like is sending a ton of emails to 1 million people just for it to fall to the bottom of their long list of to-dos in their already demanding full-time jobs. Instead, we carefully designed workshops well in advance that would allow SMEs to provide input before decisions were made. And we saw the benefits of this firsthand. Our SMEs were engaged and invested. Some of them told us it's the highlight of their week. And my personal favorite is when we even had people requesting to change jobs and move into the now budding CX team. It's really exciting. Okay, round execution complete, but before we can pass the round, we have one more very important win condition, and that is to deliver on the actual customer order. In sushi levels of overcooked, rice is a huge bottleneck because of how long it takes to cook. So our teams will assign a rice cooker role so that we can optimize for that step. The mistake is thinking that even if the rice cooker does a perfect job, we can still fail the round. And that's because no one ever orders just rice. The win condition is the completed sushi order. And in our organizations, we give our departments SLAs and KPIs, which they are rewarded for meeting. But even if the department hits their SLA, it doesn't mean that the customer experience or problem is solved. Let's take this lesson one step further. Many organizations create CX functions as a response to the business being siloed. But the mistake is thinking that creating the function will solve that. Because even if you spin up a CX team, if that team sits outside of how work actually gets delivered, then what you end up with is a team that can see the whole journey, but doesn't have the leverage to change it. What Mackenzie did differently that worked was anchor CX to a mandatory cross-functional project, and this was portal modernization. The reason this worked so well is we were able to leverage existing buy-in across the business from all the teams that were involved in the program. And we were also able to, because it was mandatory, have funding and know that it was a priority for the business. This allowed us to meet the win condition. And for you, in your organizations, if you operate outside of a compliance landscape, like the one that Mackenzie is in, this mandate may look different. But what you're looking for in essence is cross-functional executive sponsorship and funding. And that's how you meet your win condition. Congratulations, we've earned 3 stars and passed the round, and now you're ready for the recap. Today we talked about how CX design is great and it doesn't fail in the design, it fails in how the work is set up. The shift is designing how the work should be done and not just what the experience should be. It's giving SME input the same weight as executive alignment, and it's sponsoring CX through cross-functional projects and not just org charts. As you apply these 3 principles when you move past the delivery inflection point, you can keep yourselves from being in firefighter, reactionary mode, and you can make sure you're ready for things that will take you off the happy path of delivery. Now, what haven't I told you yet? Where did this get messy? What would we do differently? That's what we'd love to unpack with you as a team, and let me introduce my team. Michelle Fox is Vice President of Client Experience and Engagement at Mackenzie Investments, and she's a senior leader with over 30 years of experience in the Canadian asset management industry. She is a true force and a huge inspiration to me personally. She's very committed to raising the bar not only for her teams, but also the Mackenzie client experience. Stephen Megitt is a partner at EY Studio Plus who leads our customer experience practice. And he joined EY after founding and leading the award-winning digital agency Filament. He is one of those rare leaders who takes deep-earned expertise and pairs it with real warmth and curiosity. It's a true joy to work with him and learn from him. And he also has an incredible ability to make complex concepts really easy to grasp, usually with the perfect analogy or a quote that you might want to write down. So get your pens ready. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Michelle Fox and Stephen Megitt.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Really well done.
Very well done.
Thank you.
I don't know if I can add much to it. Over so people can see.
Okay,
If you guys
you.
want to move up a bit, because some people at the back might have a hard time seeing you, and we'll just pull this off. There we go. Is that better, everyone? Can you see?
Okay,
Great.
welcome.
Can
Yes.
everyone just give Rachel like a nice round
Yes.
of applause? Thank you for the nice things that you said about me. I'm her boss, so I think she kind of has to say that. But I'm just going to take a moment and say how absolutely proud I am of you.
Thank you.
You nailed this.
Thank you so much.
Yes, she did.
All right, now over to you.
Okay. Our first question is for you, Michelle. What was the real kitchen fire moment at Mackenzie, or the first time that you realized that CX design wasn't enough to take you where you wanted to go?
Thanks, Rachel. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we need.
So, what the real messy and kitchen fire part for us was, as you mentioned, we started this project delivery and realized we had a lot of complications. We had legacy systems. If you don't know Mackenzie Investments, we're well past 50 years old, asset management. And so we've got a lot of old legacy systems that are not well understood, not well documented, and our subject matter experts are pretty thin. In addition to that, there were other projects that were also involving those legacy systems. So we were competing for those subject matter experts. And we had a product owner team of 2 at the time. We now have a product owner of 5. So setting up that team took us time and understanding the roles that we needed to put in place. And I think we didn't have a ton of role clarity, as we didn't have a lot of structure. And we had a delivery team that was thinking about delivering a project and not delivering a transformation for our firm that was going to be really complex and involve a lot of stakeholder management that was going to be necessary for us to continue to keep those CX type artifacts in their view.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And if you could rewind on our project, what would you do differently? Is there anything you would copy and paste exactly?
Well, we would have had the time and luxury of a little bit more planning. So we had our roadmap. We knew what we wanted to build, but we were also delivering another project. Mm-hmm. We were having to meet our year-end timelines for funding, for blackout periods in our systems, and we were also setting up a massive new project. And we didn't have governance, we didn't have role clarity, and like I said, we didn't have the team set up properly. So copy and paste, what we would do differently is we would have had continued with the CX mindset that we had. We had great artifacts that we were able to socialize, and we had a vision that we articulated over and over and over again. But the thing that I would have done differently is I would have had more time for planning, and I would have had my team set up, and our delivery team would have all had a little bit clearer picture on how complex the project was going to be. Because I don't think our delivery team understood quite how complex it was going to be either.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Question for both of you. Of our 3 principles that we talked about today, I would argue that the third one is the most difficult to deliver, but probably the most critical, and that was to anchor CX to business outcomes and cross-functional executive sponsorship. How do you see this happening, or this challenge happening at Mackenzie and beyond?
Do you want to start?
Sure. I think as EY, we come into many organizations and we're sort of like parachuted in, and we have to absorb a whole lot of context that we have moments to understand and navigate and really work our way through. With Mackenzie, it was no different. We came in and we created great relationships, as we're known to do, but there's often not 1 or 2 or 9. There's probably more like 19 things that every single person is working on at any given moment. And this project is just one of many. So while it's completely our priority and everything that we're working on, it's a thing that all of our clients are working on. And I think that ultimately is the biggest challenge with CX in organizations, is without that cross-functional priority or primacy around CX, things start to get lost and things start to fall through the cracks, and the old ways of working start to reemerge because it's just a whole lot easier. And then on top of that, there's no one in the organization that actually knows how to talk to the people who are holding the wallets and purses to make a case for CX. And I think that's the biggest challenge for the CX function, is stop talking in terms of experience outcomes and start talking in terms of ROI and what it's costing the organization. So, for example, don't talk about, hey, we need our digital experience to be more self-serve because we learned from a survey that customers want to solve their own problems. That is great. That's a fabulous insight. But the people who are making decisions that don't have a ton of experience with CX, that are so used to working in Excel and getting their QBR, what they need to hear is, hey, every single time someone calls us, it's costing us $24 for that agent to answer the phone. In addition, the customer that has a call center interaction is 3 times more likely to leave us. So not only is it costing us the $24 times 3, but then the cost of acquisition to regain that customer, that's hard dollars leaking margin out of our organization. How do we fix that? Well, I have an idea on how to fix that. We just throw up this self-serve page on our website. Obviously, I'm simplifying, but those are the things that really start to create that ROI equation for the people that give permission for CX to flourish in an organization completely unabated. But you have to speak their language.
On that note, for us, we'd been building this business case for many years. I'm going to say 3. And where we really got our leverage was regulatory. There was a compliance opportunity. I'm going to say opportunity because compliance is an opportunity. And the second opportunity was cost savings related to reduced print, because our existing client portal was built in 1999. So you can imagine the experience. We had been trying to sell it on experience and that it was going to be a much better self-serve, but it wasn't until we brought it back to dollars and cents and the amount of paper that we were sending out because we didn't have an alternative. That's what got the CEOs to pay attention.
Mm-hmm. Related to that, once you've anchored your CX to a mandatory project, when that project is over, when you've completed the program, which is still a few years away for portal modernization at Mackenzie, but when that happens, how do you continue the momentum of CX, like what you've built across the organization?
Well,
is that me? Is anyone hungry?
I'm going to say that for us, in addition to this transformation that we're doing on the digital side, we're also thinking about longer term how we build a cross-functional client experience center of excellence that will work across the organization, to your point, with all of those siloed subject matter experts and remove friction points from our business. But it's going to involve having shared objectives on client experience, having KPIs that all of our executive team believe in and stand behind. It's going to be building a CX network with everybody having some skin in the game.
Yeah.
I think you answered that beautifully.
Thank you.
And another question is, a hot, important topic that we did not touch on today is AI. And Steve, of everybody that I know, you are the most on top of AI tools, and you actually use them to produce business artifacts and things that are useful and are not just using AI because it's AI. So my question is for you. What do you think the future of CX looks like as AI evolves?
Yeah, I just don't want to get replaced. What is that they say? Can't beat them, join them. I think AI, you and I have these conversations a lot. I think AI is a great conversation topic, and you really start to see where people sit on that line. Some people love it, some people hate it, some people are scared to death of it. Wherever you sit, it's totally fine. I think AI has given a lot of people permission to run with scissors in a lot of ways. Just because you can use it doesn't mean you should, is one of those things that comes to mind. Even as recently as 45 minutes ago, I was having a conversation with someone who does like agentic orchestration and within organizations, and they're like, EY used to do process automation, and people would pay big four, fees to do process automation. Now, like, there's lots of startups doing agentic, and it's like, yeah, there's always been startups doing all of these things, and there's always going to be startups that are doing these things. But I think what a lot of people don't really, either they haven't gotten or they haven't seen the chaos, is that if your foundations are fundamentally wrong, AI is just going to expose all of the weaknesses that exist within your foundations rapidly and dramatically, and you're going to end up fixing more or finding things that you have to fix more than you're actually going to be solving. So I think this conversation around CX has very little to do with AI if the organization hasn't prepared itself for AI. And a lot of the time, there are lots of great opportunities for AI. Specifically, the way that I see it, there's two ways of going about trying to understand your customer. The first is you can go sit with them, you can talk with them, you can really understand what they're looking for, and you'll probably get the 5 biases that you'll get when you talk to a customer, and then they'll go do something completely opposite of what they told you. Or you can focus on gathering as much customer telemetry data on how they're actually using your digital experience, and then get some data scientists, get some CX folks together, and start looking at the telemetry data and seeing how the dots actually connect. Start asking what if, way more than being certain about what your customer wants and what your customer does. Because I guarantee you that if you start collecting the customer telemetry data and orchestrating the data into a model that tends to predict behavior and patterns, you're going to shift away from the reactive call center save mentality that a lot of organizations have, and start to move into a next best action, next best offer, next best support in a very proactive way, which is just going to reduce your cost of acquisition. It's going to increase your lifetime value because you're giving customers not a single reason to leave. That, I think, is the most profound impact that people need to get a handle on with respect to AI, is just letting the AI do what it's really, really good at, creating patterns, synthesizing, but ultimately working from foundational data that's got really solid taxonomy, really solid geography, and everyone knows that this data has governance around it. That's the end of my TED Talk.
I was just thinking that could be its own presentation. Thank you. Let's wrap up now with 4 rapid fire questions. First one, what is a CX buzzword that you think should be banned for a year?
Journey management.
Oh,
Customer obsessed.
okay.
Looks good on a slide.
Okay.
But
hot take
I just have
maybe.
a problem with I have a problem with journey management because people don't understand service design, and now we're throwing journey management on top of that. And I just don't think our clients, the people that we're trying to create better experiences for not only the employee but for the customers, they're just now wrapping their heads around service design, and then we come in with journey management, and they're like, but I just learned about service design. So
Another
yeah,
one.
that's for me.
Okay. Hot take, perhaps. Second question, what is a metric that you think is over-celebrated? And you
average
don't
handle
trust?
time
Average handle time.
doesn't solve the problem necessarily.
I think
Yeah.
NPS, I might get like eggs thrown at me, but I actually don't like NPS, and I don't like CSAT, and I don't like customer effort scores. I really hate them because I don't know how, and I'm taking a colleague's story here, I don't know how to fix a number. But if you show me the behavior and if you show me the data, I can fix it, no problem. And all of you in this room can fix it. But if we're just looking at a number, God help us.
Okay, our last question is, in an actual kitchen, what is your favorite food to cook?
I like, my life is complicated enough at work. I like simple at home. Tacos give people the option of a little spice, not too spicy. My husband doesn't like a ton of spice. I do. It's fun. It's easy.
Love that.
My wife doesn't cook. I do all the cooking, and our kids like got hooked on Netflix food shows. And so we ended up having this battle of beef Wellington. I know this sounds super bougie.
Wow. That's not
tacos.
fun.
But
Tacos.
the whole family just absolutely loved it, and so beef Wellington is a mainstay now.
Okay.
And I've learned on
Do you want
YouTube.
to come to my house and do the beef
Absolutely, 100%. It is my favorite thing to cook, only because it takes so much time, and I get left alone for so long.
Wow. Thank you, Steve, Michelle, for joining me and being so candid and generous. Thank everyone. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you for today.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, my